If you're involved in S&OP, do you know what the number one success factor is to making sure it's really effective? That's what we're going to be talking about this week, coming right up. So this week, I welcome back Stephen Thacker, one of our directors, who's a specialist in S&OP. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you.
And you're going to tell us, this is going to be very enlightening, I know, what is the number one success factor to making sure that your S&OP is effective?
It's a shame we couldn't have done a survey prior to this, isn't it, to see what people think the answer to the question is. So after years of implementing S&OP and also doing what we call S&OP renovations, which is where companies have a process, but it needs some help and needs renovating, we've come to the conclusion, and we're not alone, you can also look at this from various other experts in this area, there is one number one success factor in doing in ensuring that your process is delivering what it's supposed to, and secondly, that it's sustainable. And the key success factor, without any exception, is you need, and there's a number of different words we can use here, but you need a converted MD or an enthusiastic MD. Careful with the words, because just tacit approval for S&OP is not going to cut it in the long term. And even if it does, it's not going to deliver the maximum benefit that S&OP needs to. So it needs a converted or an enthusiastic MD in order to A, make it effective, and B, to make sure it's sustainable. Now, you may very well ask, well, why is that? And the answers are for a number of reasons. Number one, the MD is the only one that has the span of control over all executives and all functions in the business to ensure compliance. If S&OP is owned by or run by or seen to be owned by or seen to be run by in the business, for example, supply chain, as sometimes happens, supply chain don't have any authority or any jurisdiction to be able to say to sales, we need you to make a change in your processes or in your policies, in customer service. It can't happen. Certainly the analytical grunt very often resides in supply chain. So demand plans sometimes will reside in the supply chain function along with supply planners, but nobody can make the other structural change or the other key factorial changes in the business, the cultural changes, for example, except for the MD. He's the only one that has the span of control. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is related to Isaac Newton, strangely. So Isaac Newton proclaimed what he called the second law of thermodynamics, which you may be thinking, what the heck's physics got to do with S&OP? But the second law of thermodynamics says that, in short form, unless you put heat or energy into something, the natural course of the universe is that it will cool down or it will degrade. We all experience that. We all know that. So unless you have an MD that's complying with the second law of thermodynamics and putting effort and energy into supporting and sustaining the S&OP process, the law of the universe will say that the quality of the meetings will ultimately degrade. So we not only need an MD who understands S&OP and what the key success factors are, but also is the one in the business, is the custodian for ensuring that those standards, the things that make S&OP different from any other management meeting, are maintained, and he's the one that's ultimately responsible for that. So unless you have that, a passive MD in S&OP, we'd be concerned about A, sustainability, and B, about the quality of the meetings. Now, just to give that some balance, that doesn't mean it's going to take up 50% of his working life, but he just needs to have the business understand that it is his process, it is his ability to be able to make course corrections and firm decisions about the future of the business. There aren't any other ways. There's no informal decision-making in the corridors. There's no silo decisions made about the future. This is his. S&OP is designed ostensibly for one person. It's the MD. So he needs to be the one who very clearly proclaims in the business, it's my process. This is the one I'm going to be relying on, enthusiastic about making sure that this delivers what it should to me. And then everybody complies. It's a bit like the old, a bit hackneyed and trite saying, isn't it? What interests the boss fascinates me. So if he's not interested, he's not going to get the engagement throughout the business. So, Rob, that's the number one key success factor.
Well, I bet that came as a surprise to a few people. So I would love to hear your comments down below. Your CEO, your MD, they support the process? Are they passionate about it? Are they active? Are they putting heat into the process? Because as Stephen has explained, if they're not, it's going to kind of not go anywhere pretty fast. So love to hear your comments down below. Do you have that passion and enthusiasm from the top of your organization supporting the process? Thank you again, Stephen. Now we have got loads and loads of resources on this topic of S&OP. So before you dash away, do make sure you look down below the video in the description panel. And what I'll do is I'll put a whole bunch of links in there to other videos, to blog posts. So if you're into S&OP, if you want some more information about it, there'll be loads in there right under the video in the description. And before you go, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button too as well. Thank you for joining us, Stephen. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.